Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Today's video, I'm doing an update to the frame hack that I've done on my channel previously, but this is an update. I'm going to go through some new techniques. I'm going to go through some of the questions that I've had in the comments. So let's dive into Canva and have a look. But first, before we dive into Canva, today's coffee is fika. There we go. That's today's coffee. So I'm going to go and brew my coffee. Then I'm going to come back and we're going to dive into Canva. Just made my coffee. Today I'm having my coffee in this awesome mug that my YouTube coach has sent me. Video Pursuit Society. Mug for a plug. Anyway, let's dive into Canva and take a look at this technique or this hack. Whatever you want to call it, technique, hack. It's one that I've covered off before, but I wanted to kind of go through and answer some of the questions that are on there. So you can see on this one we've got a laptop, we've got a phone or an iPhone and iPad, and you can see that there's one image kind of like looks like it goes across all of them, and then we have them popping out here. That's what we're going to create. So as always, going to come in, create an Instagram post. I like it, it's a square, it's a 1x1 crop, and I can zoom in and just makes things easier. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my background to the pink so you can kind of like see the images and that side of things. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come to elements, and then in elements we're going to come down and we're going to click see all on the frames. Now the difference between frames and grids I have covered off in another video. I'll put a link up here to that video. What we're going to do is if we click on search see all, we can now search in frames. So what I want to do is I want to look for a laptop. Okay, we're just going to pick this one. I'm going to put it down here, and we're going to go about there, and we're going to make this kind of like a little bit bigger, and we're going to position that and put that in the center. Okay, so that's that one. Next we want to look for a phone, and there are a few different options here. I think it just, you know, depends on what phone it is that you want to go for, what kind of aesthetic. I'm going to pick this one, and obviously a phone is a little bit smaller, but I want this to also still kind of go around about here. It's just off center here, and this will all depend on the positioning of your frames. Will all depend on what image it is that you want to use and what frames you want to use. You can use this with any of the frames. I'm just using it on a laptop, a mobile, and a kind of like an iPad. I thought this would be kind of like a really good kind of like concept if it was like an app or something like that, and it was available on desktop, mobile, and iPad. So I just kind of like thought that the image kind of like as the runners on this image that we're going to use in this kind of get smaller and then bigger, I kind of felt that that was kind of like the composition of the laptop, the mobile, and the iPad kind of like all fitted with that. That's our frames that we've put on here. Next I just came to photos, and I'm going to look for recently used. I just looked for one that was some people running, and it was this one. Okay, now one of the things that you'll notice about this image is that it's darker, it's facing the opposite way, and a lot of times people will come in and they'll try and put it in there and it doesn't work. I'm just doing Command Z to take that back out of there once I've dropped it in there. What you can do on there is you can flip, which you might have not have noticed, but in the image that I'm showing you, the numbers are back to front. That's the only problem with flipping an image, is numbers and things like that are going to be back to front. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to kind of like position this image and make sure as we're positioning it, it fits across all things. Now, one of the things that I did beforehand is that I sized it and then dropped it in there, and then what it does is actually shrinks it back down. So that didn't quite work. So what you actually have to do is, I'm just going to click back on that. So that's what the original, as we drop the image on there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to want to drop the image on there, and you'll see as I come over onto this kind of like holding image here, like the clouds and the grass, or the mountains if you like, or hills. As I drag my mouse pointer over that area, that's when it drops into the actual frame to go in there. If I want to position this anywhere else outside of that, as long as I'm not touching the frame, I can move this image around the screen. As soon as I drop that in there, it's going to drop it in the screen. The opposite to that is if I hold down my command key on a Mac, which I think is the control key on a Windows machine. If you hold that down, you can then, wherever you put it, wherever you put this image, as long as I hold down that image, as long as I hold down that Alt key, it's not gonna drag it in there. As soon as I let go of my Alt key, it's gonna drag it in there. You can see I can choose which one I want to go in with. Now, I'm gonna pick the first time I'm going to drop this in. I'm going to drop it into the laptop. Now you'll notice when I double click on that, it'll kind of like show me the image. Now what you need to do when you're deciding on the composition for this kind of like frame hack of wanting to get one image across multiple frames, and you can do this for video as well, this works whether it's video or images. You can't add in their graphics, unfortunately, it's just the way they work. If you want to use a graphic in your frames or anything else like that, you have to add it to a page, export it and re-import it. So it's an image or a photograph, it's just the way it works within Canva. So that's just like a little workaround there if you wanted to use a graphic. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to drag this image, and I want to drag this image so it's kind of like popping outside of this frame. Now you see I can't drag it any further up, it's got to fit with inside that image frame, if you like. You can't kind of like, you know, I can drag it down, but with this one I want these two guys kind of like almost popping out a little bit. So one of the good things I like to try and do is when I'm putting the image in here, I kind of try and give myself some kind of reference as to where it's going to be or how big the image is going to be. Now what I can do is I can then drop down grid lines, and this is a good way so I know that this image now fits within these grid lines. So that's where my image is going to be. Obviously this one's not going to be off there, but we're going to be able to match up 3 of those, and that's going to give us a good chance in order to be able to line this up. Now grid lines on there, if you don't see grid lines, you can, or the rulers at the side, just come over to File and you can click Show Rulers and Grid Lines. Hope you're enjoying your coffee this morning. So now we've got that image on there, and you're thinking like, right, well, I've got to put my other images on there. Again, just click it to add it to the screen. We're going to just flip this around like this, and then I'm going to put it inside the phone, and then what we're going to do is we're going to then drag this out a little bit, and I'm going to drag it down here, and then this will help us kind of like line it up best we can with the frame. Now because of these types of frames that we're using, and it's got kind of like that black border, you don't have to be exact, because you're not going to see it if it's like slightly disjointed or slightly out of focus, is kind of like the thing that you get. But you'll see here that this frame is now there. It's not quite where I want it to be, and we're going to want to reduce the size of this in a minute. Now I don't want to reduce the size now because we've put our grid lines here. What I want to do is kind of work with the composition that we've got. I'm going to position all my images, and then once I've positioned my images inside my frames, then you can then group those frames all together and then reduce them at the same time. If I, for instance, now wanted to kind of like move this frame about, it's not going to line up. So what I'd have to do if I wanted to move this frame to say there, I'd have to come in and then realign, double click to get access to the image like this, then realign it. So that looks like that was a bit of a better composition. Next, we're going to want to add the third image for this last frame. We're going to flip that again, just drop it in there. Once you're over the frame, double click it to resize it, and then we're going to just position this as we want. And what you can do, if you want to get a bit more precise about this, you can zoom in if you want to. That's going to give you a good idea of where you are on there. So I'm just going to drop that one there, and that's really good. You know, we've got those kind of like work. Now, in order to get the people look like they're popping out of the frame, what we're going to do is we're going to drag this image on here for a fourth time. So this is the fourth image. Again, I'm going to flip it, and then once we've flipped it, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come over, go to images or edit image once the image is selected, and then we're just going to click the remove background, which, by the way, is one of my favourite features still in Canva, apart from the new text effect that was released yesterday. And if you've not watched the video on that new text effect yet, I'll put a link up here and in the description down below. This is part of a series of 24 days that I'm doing on the run up to Christmas. It's kind of like 24 days of Christmas, because I like things twice as good as they probably are, because it's supposed to be 12 days of Christmas, but I have an advent calendar with 24 coffees. Okay, now the image has removed the background, and we can see that if I kind of just dragged these in here, it's going to replace the image. It's not going to quite work. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make it bigger, and we're going to try and position and size this without having our mouse pointer or mouse cursor over the frame, because as I say earlier on in the tutorial, once you have your mouse cursor, or if you're using this on a mobile or tablet, once you have your finger or your cursor over the actual holding area of a frame, it works same for grids. Once you have that over there, then it's going to drop the image into the frame. The workaround for that, as I say, is holding down the Alt key or the Command key on a Mac. It's the key next to the space bar. Anyway, we've now positioned that, and we've got that, as I say, we've lined it up with our grid lines and our frames here. There you go, that's that. And you think, well, hang on a minute, I don't need all this information out the back here. That's fine. What you do is you just literally click the edge, which is your frame, and that should be bringing that. Why is that not bringing that around? There we go. I must have had the wrong frame selected. So all I can do is just bring that in, and I'm going to bring it in. There's a kind of like a gap here, so I kind of bring it in here, and then these guys are also kind of like popping out. If I don't want these people popping out, again, all I can do is just pop that here. I can pop that down here, so it is just these two people if I wanted them. If I wanted that person in the background, if I wanted his head kind of like popping out, so it kind of like makes it start looking like they're running through the frames. That's how it works. It's just moving those around. Now, one of the things that you'll have noticed is that this doesn't quite fit. So what we're going to do is we're going to now highlight all of these. We're going to group them. Now, because they're all grouped, it's got all three frames and the layer on top of the image. And that now, we can now resize that as we need to, and that makes it look like he's running out of there. Now, if I quickly drag in my other image, okay, you'll see that there's a slight difference in that this image is lighter than this image. Now, I'm going to do a video on editing your images in Canva, but as a quick tip, what you do is you come to edit your image, and then you can just adjust your brightness, contrast and saturation. You can click see all, and that gives you more options, but what I've done for this one is I just went for 40, 20, and I'm just tabbing through these, 10. Okay, and you can see that that now gives them a brighter image, and I can do that on there. Just clicked on edit image, and we'll just go 40, tab, 20, tab, 10. Okay. And I could leave this one a little bit darker if I wanted to, but we're not. We're going to just come in, show you again, edit image, and adjust in the image. And it's 40, tab, 20, tab, 10. Okay, and that's how you can do that. If you click on see all, this is a great little hack. You get a little filter code at the bottom here. Now you can just copy that and apply that to any other images, and that's how you can get a consistent look on your images. As I say, I've got a full tutorial coming up on editing your images and some of the new image editing options within Canva. I've got that coming up later in the series. So if that's something that you're into or you want to learn about, make sure you click subscribe down below, click on the bell notification icon, and all these videos, once I finish doing these, if you're watching these after the end of December, I'm going to put all these in a playlist, and I'll put a link down below to that. But yeah, that's how you do the frame hack. That's using an image across multiple frames, if you like. But you could, if I wanted to just kind of like replace this with a video, I could get that video to play across multiple frames. And now if that's something you want to learn more about, as I say, I've got another video up here about the frame hack, and I'll put the link when you click on the link, I'll put that to start at the actual part in that video where it talks about doing this within a video or with video. But I think that's everything for today, so thank you very much. Enjoy your coffee, enjoy your day. Hope you're having a lovely December. Hope you're not getting too stressed, and just click subscribe, bell notification, say hi down in the comments below. Let me know you've watched right to the end, including my babble here at the end, which I normally just don't even do, but I thought I'd just give a little bit of a sneak peek of something at the end. So if you do stay to the end, watch to the end of the video, just comment down below, hashtag coffee is awesome. There you go. Hashtag coffee is awesome down in the comments, and I'll know you've watched until the end. So until next time, thank you very much. Bye for now.